and welcome to a special holiday Thanksgiving edition of This Academic Life. It is Sunday, October 9th, and it's Canadian Thanksgiving, which means that it's a long weekend. And contrary to popular beliefs, I do not have the long weekend off because I have my first papers to mark right here. We have 20 two-page papers to mark for Tuesday, and I will be getting on that probably while I wait for my dinner to cook. I have soup, miso soup for now. It's the holidays, which are stressful enough. It's also autumn, so the days are getting shorter. It's week 6 coming up of the semester, so we're done about a third of the semester. It's also the time of year when we're writing grant applications, and we're deciding, say if you're in an undergraduate program going on to graduate school, or if you're in a master's thinking about a PhD or another program, where you have to decide what is the next step that you want to take for the next fall. So it's a very difficult time of year for a lot of people. You might be a new MA who's just started graduate school and you're teaching for the first time, and you might have just finished your undergraduate degree a couple months ago, so to go from student to teacher in the mere span of a few months can be really daunting. And so what do all these things have in common? Anxiety, depression, panic, and mental health in general, which is not always something that academics like to talk about. Academics are, I find, notoriously stoic when it comes to how they're doing. We like to get our stuff done, and a lot of us suffer from issues of perfectionism, which, when perfectionism becomes maladaptive, can really lead us into a lot of negative behaviors and a lot of negative mindsets, which doesn't do wonders for our mental health. The issue that I really wanted to talk about in terms of academia and stress and dealing with the sort of ups and downs of academic life is the issue of shame and sort of being honest about where you're at. I've struggled with anxiety and depression for, I don't know, quite a while. I tend to have a perfectionistic personality, and along with perfectionism tend to go these issues of anxiety and depression, panic, those kinds of things. So when I was finishing up my undergraduate degree in 2008, I wasn't necessarily in the best mindset, because I decided to rush straight through, try and do well enough so I could get into graduate school. And I kind of made myself very, very sick in the process. I think when I finally finished my undergraduate degree, I weighed 20 pounds less than I do now, which was not good at all. I didn't sleep very well. I took extra classes because I thought it would be fun to end my last semester with more, work on my plate. And by the time I started graduate school, I was so pent up with all of the stress that I decided not to teach for the first term or the second term. I just needed to focus on adjusting to this new coursework and the new level of academic excellence that was seemingly demanded of me and expected of me. But the anxiety and depression didn't stop just because I decided to take a little bit of a break. My master's was a one-year program designed to be completed in 12 months. So when I was in the first semester of my MA, I had to decide whether or not I would apply for a PhD. And I did. And I ended up getting in. And I just sort of freaked out. I phoned up my program, told them I needed a semester's extension. So I wanted to start my program a semester later, and that was fine. And then at a certain point, 2 falls ago, I became so anxious and so depressed and so unable to function because I didn't know how to deal with this academic life that I phoned up my program and I said that I wasn't coming to do my PhD. I went on medical leave from my TA-ship. I did an RA-ship instead to finish off the semester, and I completed my course, and I completed my MA in the time frame that I was going to. But I didn't know how to cope anymore. What I didn't know, however, was that this is not abnormal. I may suffer from anxiety and depression already at times in my life, but graduate school often can trigger these episodes of anxiety, depression, panic, eating issues, substance abuse issues, there's a whole range of affective, emotional experiences that can be triggered with the stress of graduate school. The problem that I find is that not a lot of people talk about it. It's hidden. Graduate students are, by virtue of having gotten into graduate school, excellent students. They know how to work hard, they're diligent, they're devoted, they want to do well in teaching as well as their coursework. They still want to do well and have a personal life. It's always nice to have a personal life when you're in graduate school. And yet it's sort of this unspoken tension within a lot of us that we are exhausted. We can't read, 400 pages a week. We can't read 400 pages a week and prepare for our tutorials and mark papers and deal with our husbands or wives or boyfriends, girlfriends, families, children, activities, leisure pursuits. There's not always a lot of time to cram it in, and it sort of wound up in the end of sort of these quiet, hidden conversations with my peers talking about how absolutely stressed we were. It sort of got to the point where I've talked to other friends at other schools, and a lot of them are relying on sleep medication, or some of them are using alcohol to cope. Smoking tends to also increase in graduate school. Sometimes people pick up smoking in graduate school even if they haven't smoked previously. I don't smoke, and I also don't drink. So it seemed to me that I didn't have any sort of vices or outlets to sort of release some of the stress into. The way that I released it was sort of by kind of falling apart in a way. So I kind of fell apart 2 years ago, and eventually I had to say, well, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with stress and anxiety and the effects that it's having on me? The first thing that I did was that I ended up actually going to do my PhD, and I took it slow. I only did one course in my first semester. It took me 4 terms to finish off my coursework, and I'm still taking it quite slow. I'm going at my own pace, putting in a lot of effort and a lot of hard work, but not working past my limits and not thinking that I need to finish in 4 years and get everything done. I'm also trying to find moments to be gentle with myself. Sometimes that means not going out with friends because I need to stay at home and I need to rest. I need to catch my breath. It also means learning my limits. It means saying no to a publication opportunity because, as great as it might be, I can't handle that extra stress right now in my life. There will always be other publication opportunities out there. And I think most importantly, it means being honest with myself, with my colleagues, and even to a certain extent with my committee and the people who are in a supervisory role at the university. Now, it's not sort of my place, and I don't wish to share everything with those types of people because that's not what they're there for. They're there to supervise my academic work. But I am very honest when I say, no, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. I'm a little bit stressed. I might have this for you next week. Or I'm going to take things a little bit slower this fall. I want to sort of enjoy the process, actually remember my reading because I'm not too tired or stressed out or sort of delirious in insomnia to remember what I'm reading. And it means talking with peers, with other people who are going through the same experience. The problem I find is that a lot of people are ashamed. They don't want to reach out for help. Mental illness and even stress in graduate school that sort of isn't this diagnosable mental illness, but the effects of stress, a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they're worried that their colleagues or their friends or their mentors might perceive them as being weak. But I can tell you from personal experience that not being honest about how stressed I was and how difficult I was finding the process actually ended up backfiring in the end, and I actually ended up on medical leave. So this Thanksgiving, I want to encourage everyone to take a little bit of time to understand what your needs are as far as rest, as far as how much you can take emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, mentally, and to reach out for help when you can and where you can. And in some cases that might be talking to a counseling service on campus. It might mean talking to your supervisor and maybe even just saying that you're a little bit overwhelmed right now and a little bit stressed and you'd like to take things a little bit more slowly. And ultimately, I think it's not being ashamed. Graduate school is not necessarily a very forgiving experience. It's very taxing in a lot of ways. It may not be manual labor, but it's a lot of intellectual, a lot of creative labor, and it can have serious consequences for our mental health. I think that's the important thing to remember, is that as academics, we work with our brains. That is our primary tool. It's what we need to be able to function. So if we destroy our primary tool, if we're not taking care of it and sort of getting it checked up once in a while, then ultimately we can't be effective academics, and we're doing a disservice to ourselves and to our work. So I hope that this Thanksgiving everyone can take just a little bit of time to sort of think about these issues and remember that it's a perfectly normal experience. Everyone experiences stress. And any academic who tells you that they're not stressed or that they're totally fine, I think is not necessarily telling the truth. Everyone that I know is stressed out. So I hope that you are all having a good Thanksgiving, hopefully a restful one, and I will be back soon with some teaching stuff and some marking stuff because I have all these great papers. Yeah, so that's it, and I will talk to you all hopefully very soon. All right, bye you guys.